Some places seem to have been designed by imagination itself. Towers that touch the clouds, walls that defy vertiginous cliffs, and halls that echo with the stories of kings, queens, and epic battles. In this documentary, you will journey through landscapes that seem impossible, yet are real. From the lush green valleys of Europe to the mountains of Asia, passing through fortresses built upon islands, caves, and dramatic cliffs, each castle reveals not only impressive architecture, but also centuries of ambition, power, and mystery. Prepare to discover constructions that withstood the test of time, survived wars, and became eternal symbols of their nations. Turn up the volume, settle in, and allow yourself to travel with us through the most magnificent castles on Earth. Because the world is far more extraordinary than we imagine, and this journey is only just beginning. Rising among the Bavarian Alps, surrounded by dense forests and towering mountains, Neuschwanstein Castle looks as if it were lifted straight from a fairy tale. And not by chance, it was the primary inspiration for Disney's castle. Built in the 19th century by King Ludwig II of Bavaria, known as the Dreamer King, the palace was not designed for defense, but for fantasy. From afar, its white towers stand out against the sky and seem to float above the Palat Gorge. Up close, the details reveal a private universe. Halls adorned with scenes from Richard Wagner's operas, golden chandeliers, romantic paintings, and a throne room that feels more like a theatrical stage set. Curiously, the king lived there for only a short time before his mysterious death, and the castle was open to the public just weeks later. Today, millions of visitors cross panoramic bridges to behold this masterpiece that defies medieval logic, a fortress never meant for war, but for a dream. Imagine a castle that disappears and reappears with the movement of the tides. Surrounded by waters that rise swiftly and transform the landscape into something almost mystical, Mont Saint-Michel is one of the most breathtaking constructions in France and in the world. Built upon a rocky highland in Normandy, this fortified complex began as a monastery in the 8th century. Over the centuries, walls were added, towers rose higher, and the small island became a virtually impregnable stronghold. During the 100 Years' War, it resisted English sieges, becoming a symbol of French resilience. As you cross the walkway linking the mainland to the island, it feels as though you're stepping into another era. Narrow streets spiral upward toward the abbey at the summit, where stained glass windows filter the light and silence echoes between stone columns. When the tide rises and completely isolates the mount, the scene feels unreal. A castle floating between sky and sea, a place where nature and architecture come together to create an unforgettable spectacle. Perched atop a rocky hill in Transylvania, surrounded by dense forests and mists that seem to appear from nowhere, Bran Castle carries an aura of mystery that spans centuries. Its pointed towers and narrow ramparts help cement its reputation as Dracula's castle, though its connection to Vlad the Impaler is more legend than historical fact. Built in the 14th century, the castle served a clear strategic purpose, protecting a vital trade route between Transylvania and Wallachia. Its tight corridors, secret staircases, and hidden passages reinforce the feeling that every stone conceals a secret. Inside, the atmosphere is surprisingly warm, with carved wooden rooms, historic furnishings, and windows that reveal dramatic views of the Carpathian Mountains. Yet as the light fades, the mood shifts completely. Elongated shadows and absolute silence create an almost cinematic atmosphere. Between real history and popular imagination, Bran has become one of the most visited castles in Europe, a place where a fascination with the unknown transforms stone and mortar into pure legend. At first glance, it resembles a white heron poised to take flight. Himeji Castle in Japan is known as the White Heron Castle for its elegant pale facade that contrasts with the sky and the cherry blossoms surrounding it. Originally built in the 14th century and expanded in the early 17th century, Himeji is considered the best preserved feudal castle in Japan. Unlike many others, it survived wars, earthquakes, and even the bombings of World War II. Its winding walls and labyrinthian pathways were designed to confuse invaders, creating a true architectural trap. Inside, wooden corridors creak beneath each step, and small openings in the walls reveal former defensive positions. From the top, the view of the modern city creates a fascinating contrast between past and present. In spring, when cherry trees bloom and pink petals frame its white towers, the scene feels almost unreal. Himeji is not just a castle, it is a symbol of Japanese aesthetics, where beauty and strategy walk side by side. Dominating the skyline of Scotland's capital, Edinburgh Castle rises atop an extinct volcanic rock known as Castle Rock. The feeling when seeing it from below is unmistakable. This fortress was built to be imposing and virtually impregnable. With origins dating back to the 12th century, the castle has witnessed wars, sieges, and struggles for the Scottish throne. It has served as a royal residence, a military prison, and a symbol of national power. Within its walls are the honors of Scotland, the Scottish crown jewels, as well as the Stone of Destiny used in the coronation of kings. Walking through its courtyards is like crossing centuries of history. The Great Hall impresses with its arched wooden ceiling, while historic cannons still point toward the city below. Every day, the famous 1 o'clock gun is fired, keeping a centuries-old tradition alive. At dusk, when Scotland's sky turns dramatic shades and the wind blows cold across the ramparts, Edinburgh reveals its most epic side. A castle that does not merely overlook the city, but defines its soul. Shaped like the prow of a ship advancing over the horizon, the Alcazar of Segovia seems carved directly from the rock on which it stands. Located in the Castile and Leon region of Spain, it dominates the landscape from atop a cliff, surrounded by the Eresma and Clamoras rivers. Its origins date back to the 12th century, though over the centuries it was expanded and transformed. It has served as a Roman fortress, a royal palace, a prison, and even a military academy. It was here that Isabella the Catholic was proclaimed Queen of Castile in 1474, a decisive moment in Spanish history. Its conical towers, topped with dark slate roofs, give the castle an almost magical air. Inside, richly decorated rooms display intricate mudéjar ceilings, colorful stained glass, and halls that seem frozen in time. From the top of the Tower of Juan II, the view opens onto golden fields and distant mountains. It is the kind of scene that makes any visitor feel as though they have stepped into a medieval tale. Imagine a castle literally embedded in the mouth of a cave more than 120 meters high, anchored into a vertical cliff. Breathtaking Castle in Slovenia seems to defy not only time, but gravity itself. Built in the 13th century and expanded during the Renaissance, it became legendary because of a rebellious knight, Erasmus of Breathtaking. Legend says he resisted a siege for months thanks to a secret tunnel connecting the castle to the top of the mountain, allowing supplies to enter unnoticed by enemies. From the outside, the facade blends natural rock and human construction almost seamlessly, as if the castle had been born from the stone itself. Inside, narrow corridors lead to simple halls, defensive chambers, and dark passages that echo with stories of resistance. In winter, with snow covering the cliff, the setting feels like a surreal painting. In summer, the landscape's vibrant green creates a dramatic contrast with the pale stone. Predjama is not just a castle. It is a striking example of how humanity can transform nature into a fortress. In the heart of the Loire Valley, surrounded by forests and geometric gardens, the Château de Chambord rises as a masterpiece of the French Renaissance. With more than 400 rooms and a silhouette filled with towers, domes, and ornate chimneys, it resembles a palace city more than a simple castle. Commissioned in the 16th century by King Francis I, Chambord was conceived as a symbol of power and sophistication. Its architecture blends medieval tradition with Renaissance innovation, and its most fascinating detail lies at the very center: the famous double helix staircase attributed to Leonardo da Vinci. Two people can ascend and descend simultaneously without ever crossing paths. From the top of the terrace, the scene is almost surreal. The towers intertwine like sculptures against the sky, while the Loire River winds in the distance. Despite its grandeur, the castle was rarely used as a royal residence. It was more a stage for impressing than a permanent home. Chambord proves that architecture can be pure ambition transformed into stone. On a small strip of land where three lochs meet in the Scottish Highlands, Island Donan Castle seems to float upon the water. Connected to the mainland by an arched stone bridge, it is one of the most photographed scenes in the country, and one glance is enough to understand why. Built in the 13th century to defend the lands against Viking invasions, the castle endured intense battles and was nearly destroyed in the 18th century. What we see today is the result of a careful reconstruction in the early 20th century, restoring its romantic and imposing appearance. When the typical Highland mist blankets the mountains in the background, the setting takes on an almost cinematic quality. The calm water reflects the dark stone walls, creating an image that feels lifted from a medieval dream. Inside, cozy rooms display ancient weapons, portraits, and historic furnishings that tell the story of the Scottish clans. Island Donan is not just a castle, it is the very essence of Scotland shaped in stone and landscape. High atop the mountains of Sintra, wrapped in mist and surrounded by lush forest, Peine Palace bursts onto the horizon in an explosion of color. Vibrant yellow, deep red, touches of blue, and traditional Portuguese tiles create a composition that feels more like a painting than architecture. Built in the 19th century by order of King Dom Fernando II, the palace is one of the greatest symbols of Romanticism in Europe. It was erected over the ruins of an ancient monastery and blends Gothic, Manueline, Islamic, and Renaissance styles. A true celebration of architectural imagination. From its terraces, the Atlantic Ocean can be seen on clear days. When the mist rises along the hillsides, however, the palace seems to float above the clouds like an enchanted setting. Inside, the halls preserve the original decor of the Portuguese royal family, offering a glimpse into court life in the 19th century. Peine Palace was not built to intimidate enemies, but to enchant the eye. And it fulfills that role like few places in the world. On the banks of the Nogat River in northern Poland stands one of the largest brick fortresses in the world, the imposing Malbork Castle. Its sheer scale is striking at first sight. Vast walls, massive towers, and courtyards that seem endless. Built in the 13th century by the Teutonic Order, the castle was designed as a seat of religious and military power. Each wing served a strategic purpose, forming a complex divided into three major fortified sections. The red brick architecture, typical of the Baltic region, gives the castle a solid and austere appearance mirrored in the calm waters of the river. Inside, Gothic halls, pointed arches, and monumental refectories reveal the discipline and organization of the order that dominated the region for centuries. During intense conflicts, Malbork withstood sieges and became a symbol of Teutonic strength. Today, as you walk through its corridors and cross its internal bridges, you can feel the weight of history in every wall. Malbork is not only grand in size, it is monumental in meaning. Amid the mountains of Nagano Prefecture, Matsumoto Castle stands out for its distinctive appearance. Unlike the pale tones of Himeji, here the dark wood creates a striking, almost dramatic silhouette. For this reason, it is known as the Crow Castle, as if its black wings were spread over the moat that surrounds it. Built in the late 16th century, during the turbulent Sengoku period, Matsumoto was designed for real defense. Its system of moats, internal passages, and strategic windows allowed enemies to be monitored from every angle. The interior staircases are steep and narrow, reinforcing the military character of the structure. Around it, the water perfectly reflects its black towers, creating a symmetrical image that resembles a painting. In spring, cherry blossoms bloom along the banks. In winter, snow covers the roof, transforming the castle into an almost silent landscape. From the top, the view reveals the Japanese Alps in the distance, a setting that blends strength and serenity. Matsumoto proves that elegance and strategy can coexist in perfect harmony. Perched atop a steep cliff more than 100 meters above Lake Bled, rises one of the most photogenic landscapes in Europe. Bled Castle seems to silently watch over the lake's blue-green waters and the small island with its church at the center, a scene that feels carefully hand-painted. With origins dating back to the 11th century, it is the oldest castle in Slovenia. Over the centuries, it underwent expansions that combined Romanesque and Gothic elements, creating a fortress that is simple yet strategically positioned. Its inner courtyards offer breathtaking panoramic views. From above, the Julian Alps can be seen in the distance, reflected in the calm lake below. The atmosphere is peaceful, almost contemplative, very different from fortresses built solely for war. Within the complex, small chapels, preserved ramparts, and a museum recount the region's history. Yet it is the view that truly steals the show. Bled is not merely a castle, it is a privileged vantage point over one of the most enchanting landscapes on the planet. At first glance, it looks like a medieval film set, but the fortified city of Carcassonne in southern France is very real and astonishing in scale. There are more than 3 kilometers of double walls, 52 towers, and a silhouette that dominates the Aude River Valley. Its origins date back to the Roman period, but it was in the Middle Ages that the fortress took the form we recognize today. For centuries, Carcassonne played a key role in religious and territorial disputes, particularly during the Albigensian Crusade against the Cathars. Walking along its ramparts feels like stepping through a portal in time. The weathered stones, conical towers, and fortified gates reveal architecture designed to withstand sieges and invasions. Within the walls, narrow cobblestone streets lead to small squares, shops, and the imposing Basilica of Saint-Nazaire. At sunset, when golden light bathes the towers and casts long shadows across the walls, the scene becomes almost magical. Carcassonne is not just a solitary castle, it is an entire city safeguarded by stone and history. Elegant, delicate, and perfectly integrated into the landscape, the Château de Chenonceau seems to float above the River Cher in the Loire Valley. Unlike the military fortresses we have seen so far, here grandeur gives way to harmony and sophistication. Built in the 16th century, Chenonceau became known as the Ladies' Castle, as its history was shaped by influential women who defined its architecture and gardens. Among them was Catherine de' Medici, who commissioned the famous gallery spanning the river, a long corridor lined with large windows reflecting the water just below. The symmetrical gardens are a spectacle of their own. Designed with geometric precision, they create a perfect contrast between controlled nature and the fluidity of the river flowing beneath the castle. Inside, halls adorned with tapestries, carved fireplaces, and works of art reveal the refinement of the French Renaissance court. At dusk, when the castle's reflection doubles upon the calm surface of the river, Chenonceau appears suspended between sky and water, a structure that proves that sometimes true strength lies in elegance. In the heart of Ireland, surrounded by impeccably maintained gardens and emerald green lawns, Kilkenny Castle rises as one of the most striking symbols of Irish history. Built in the 12th century by the Normans, the castle occupied a strategic position along the River Nowhere. Over the centuries, it underwent significant transformations, blending medieval features with Victorian influences. Its cylindrical towers and robust facade reveal its military past, yet the interior surprises with its sophistication. Inside, grand halls display ornate ceilings, imposing fireplaces, and the elegant long gallery, decorated with portraits and refined details. The contrast between the defensive exterior and the aristocratic interior shows how the castle evolved from fortress to noble residence. Walking through the gardens, especially in autumn, when the leaves turn golden and crimson, the landscape feels like a painting brought to life. Kilkenny is not merely a historic structure, it is a living portrait of Ireland's transformation through the centuries. Majestic and imposing, Windsor Castle is the largest and oldest inhabited castle in the world. Located just a few miles from London, it has served as an official residence of the British monarchy for nearly 1,000 years. Founded in the 11th century by William the Conqueror, Windsor began as a strategic fortress but was gradually transformed into a grand royal palace. Its sturdy walls enclose expansive courtyards, circular towers, and the famous state apartments where official ceremonies still take place. Outside, the Long Walk, a perfectly aligned tree-lined avenue, draws the eye straight toward the fortress, reinforcing its grandeur. Inside, richly decorated halls display works of art, historic armor, and gilded details reflecting centuries of tradition. Even as it hosts modern events and remains an active royal residence, Windsor preserves the medieval atmosphere that shaped its origins. A castle that has not only withstood time, but continues to be part of history still being written. On the banks of the River Conwy estuary in northern Wales stands one of Europe's most impressive medieval fortresses. Conwy Castle dominates the landscape with its 8 massive towers and walls that seem to rise directly from the rock. Built in the 13th century by order of King Edward I of England, Conwy was part of an ambitious project to consolidate English control over Wales. In just 4 years, the fortress was completed, a remarkable achievement for the time. Its strategic position allowed control of both the harbor and the region's land routes. Walking along its preserved ramparts, the view opens to the sea on one side and the mountains of Snowdonia National Park on the other. From above, strong winds and the cries of seagulls create an intense, almost cinematic atmosphere. The interior now lies in ruins, yet this only heightens its visual impact. The bare walls reveal the grandeur of the original structure. Conwy is not delicate or romantic. It is raw, powerful, and absolutely breathtaking. Rising atop a hill covered by dense forests in central Bohemia, Karlstein Castle seems to quietly watch over the valley below. Its tiered towers create a striking silhouette, as if each level brings the visitor a little closer to the sky. Founded in the 14th century by Emperor Charles IV of the Holy Roman Empire, Karlstein was designed to safeguard sacred relics and the imperial crown jewels. It was not merely a fortress, it was a monumental vault, protected by thick walls and strategically placed defenses. Its most remarkable feature is the Chapel of the Holy Cross, richly adorned with semi-precious stones and medieval paintings that create an almost mystical atmosphere. Stepping inside feels like entering a space designed to awe and to protect what was once among the most valuable treasures in medieval Europe. From the main tower, the view reveals rolling hills and distant villages, forming a landscape typical of the Czech Republic. Karlstein is a castle that unites faith, power, and strategy, a structure built to guard treasures and one that has itself become a historical treasure. Atop a strategic hill on the banks of the Danube River, Bratislava Castle dominates the skyline of the Slovak capital with its unmistakable silhouette. Its four symmetrical towers give the structure the appearance of a massive white table turned toward the sky. The site's origins date back to Celtic and Roman times, but the fortress gained prominence during the Middle Ages. In the 16th century, it became a royal residence when Bratislava, then known as Pressburg, served as the coronation city of the kings of Hungary. Over the centuries, the castle witnessed wars, fires, and reconstructions. What we see today is the result of a major 20th century restoration that restored its classical grandeur. From the top of its walls, the view is vast and striking. The Danube winding through the landscape, the modern city below, and on clear days, even the borders of Austria and Hungary in the distance. Inside, exhibitions recount the region's rich and multicultural history. Bratislava is not merely a solitary castle, it is a meeting point of cultures and empires. Rising on an island in the middle of Lake Schwerin in northern Germany, Schwerin Castle seems to float upon the tranquil waters that surround it. With its delicate towers, gilded domes, and ornate facades, it is often called the Neuschwanstein of the north. Its history dates back to the 10th century, but the castle took its current form in the 19th century, when it was rebuilt as the residence of the Grand Dukes of Mecklenburg-Schwerin. The result is an elegant blend of architectural styles, from Renaissance to Baroque, creating an almost theatrical silhouette. The perfect reflection of its towers on the lake's surface enhances the fairy tale atmosphere. In the carefully designed gardens, statues and tree-lined paths complete the romantic setting. Inside, richly decorated halls reveal the luxury of the former German nobility, with ornate ceilings, stained glass, and gilded details that capture the natural light. Schwerin was not built solely for defense. It was designed to impress. Rising dramatically from a rocky hill more than 120 meters above the blue city of Jodhpur, Mehrangarh Fort dominates the Rajasthan desert like a legendary stronghold. Founded in the 15th century by the ruler Rao Yodha, the fort was designed to withstand invasions in a region marked by rival kingdoms. Its massive walls seem to grow from the living rock itself, creating an impression of absolute strength. Outside, marks left by ancient cannon fire can still be seen on the walls. Yet it is upon passing through its monumental gates that the true contrast emerges. Inside are delicately decorated palaces, intricately carved stone lattice windows known as girokas, and halls with painted ceilings and colorful stained glass that filters the desert sunlight. From the top, the view is simply breathtaking. A sea of blue houses spreads across the city below, creating a landscape unlike any other in the world. Mehrangarh is not just a castle, it is a symbol of the power, artistry, and resilience of medieval India. In the heart of one of Japan's most vibrant cities, Osaka Castle,
rises as a symbol of unification and power. Surrounded by wide moats and imposing stone walls, it creates a striking contrast with the modern skyscrapers nearby. Built in the late 16th century by Toyotomi Hideyoshi, one of Japan's great unifiers, the castle was the stage for decisive battles that shaped the nation's destiny. Though its original structure was destroyed over the centuries, it was rebuilt while preserving the grand appearance that made it famous. The main tower, adorned with green and gold details, features ornamental figures that gleam under the sun. In spring, cherry blossoms bloom around the moats, transforming the scene into a spectacle of soft colors and shimmering reflections. From the top, the view reveals the vastness of the modern city, a reminder that past and present stand side by side. Osaka is not merely a historic castle, it is a landmark of Japanese identity. With an almost perfectly symmetrical appearance, surrounded by a wide moat reflecting its rounded towers, Bodiam Castle feels like the classic definition of an English medieval fortress. Built in the 14th century during the Hundred Years' War, Bodiam was designed both for defense and to display status. Its walls, battlements, and drawbridges projected strength, yet many historians believe the castle also served a symbolic purpose, showcasing the power of its owner. Today, the interior lies in ruins, allowing visitors to clearly observe the original layout: halls, kitchens, living quarters, and staircases that once sheltered daily medieval life. Walking through it is to imagine knights crossing the courtyard and torches lighting the stone walls. At sunset, when the sky turns golden and the moat reflects each tower, Bodiam appears like a living painting, a castle that balances romance and robustness, and proves that, at times, beauty lies in the simplicity of form. Atop a hill covered in dense forests, Vianden Castle dominates the small medieval town that stretches along the River. Its imposing silhouette, with elongated walls and elegant towers, looks as though it has stepped out of an illustrated history book. Built between the 11th and 14th centuries, Vianden was the residence of the Counts of Luxembourg and is considered one of the largest fortified castles west of the Rhine. Its architecture blends Romanesque and Gothic influences, reflecting centuries of transformation. For a time, the castle was abandoned and suffered significant damage, but an extensive 20th century restoration restored its former splendor. As you walk through its restored courtyards and halls, it is easy to imagine medieval banquets and strategic meetings that shaped the region. From the ramparts, the view reveals the pointed rooftops of the town below and green hills stretching to the horizon. In autumn, when the surrounding trees turn shades of gold and crimson, the setting becomes even more cinematic. Vianden proves that history can be rebuilt and continue to inspire generations. With its tall towers, colorful roofs, and a long wooden bridge leading to its main entrance, Corvin Castle is one of the most impressive examples of Gothic architecture in Eastern Europe. Located in the city of Hunedoara, Romania, the castle was expanded in the 15th century by John Hunyadi, one of the region's most important military leaders. Its structure combines robust defensive elements with elegant architectural details, creating a balance between strength and refinement. The bridge crossing the moat already prepares visitors for an almost cinematic experience. Upon crossing it, inner courtyards appear, surrounded by arched galleries and towers that seem to watch every movement. Local legends speak of prisoners held in its dungeons and stories that blur the line between reality and imagination, adding even more mystery to the site. From the top of its towers, the view reveals green hills and the tranquil landscape of Transylvania, a striking contrast to the fortress's dramatic appearance. Corvin is a castle that commands respect from afar and fascinates up close.
Perched on a hill overlooking the city of Granada, with the Sierra Nevada mountains in the background, the Alhambra stands as one of the most breathtaking palace complexes in the world. More than a castle, it is a masterpiece of medieval Islamic architecture in Europe. Built primarily in the 13th and 14th centuries by the Nasrid dynasty, the Alhambra harmoniously combines fortress, palace, and gardens. Its reddish walls contrast with the delicacy of its interior details, intricate arches, Arabic calligraphy inscriptions, and courtyards where water flows gently through fountains and channels. The Court of the Lions is perhaps its most iconic space, with a fountain supported by 12 sculpted lions and columns carved with remarkable precision. The Generalife Gardens offer a tranquil retreat, with cypress trees, flowers, and reflecting pools that mirror the Andalusian sky. At sunset, when the walls glow in golden hues and the horizon lights up, the Alhambra seems suspended between light and shadow, a place where art, nature, and history meet in an unforgettable harmony. Dominating the skyline of the Czech capital, Prague Castle is not just a castle, it is a monumental complex that feels like a city within a city. Stretching across a hill above the Vltava River, it is considered one of the largest castle complexes in the world. Founded in the 9th century, it served as the residence of the kings of Bohemia, the Holy Roman Emperors, and today remains the official seat of the President of the Czech Republic. Over the centuries, architectural styles from Romanesque to Gothic and Baroque were incorporated into its design. The absolute highlight is St. Vitus Cathedral, whose pointed towers rise dramatically above the walls. Its stained glass windows filter the light in breathtaking ways, creating an almost celestial atmosphere. Walking through its courtyards and inner streets is like traversing more than 1,000 years of European history. From the ramparts, the view reveals Prague's red rooftops and the famous Charles Bridge crossing the river below. Prague Castle does not merely overlook the city, it shapes its identity. Isolated atop a rocky cliff on Scotland's northeastern coast, Dunatar Castle seems to defy the ocean itself. Surrounded by steep cliffs and waves crashing against the rocks below, it is one of the most dramatic settings in the Scottish Highlands. The site's history dates back to the early Middle Ages, though the present ruins mainly date from the 15th and 16th centuries. Dunatar played a decisive role in Scottish history, including safeguarding the honors of Scotland, which were hidden there to prevent their capture by Oliver Cromwell's forces in the 17th century. Even reaching the castle is a striking experience. A narrow path descends and then rises again toward the fortified gate, creating a sense of total isolation. Today, windswept walls, partially intact towers, and ruined halls echo stories of resistance. When the sky turns overcast and the sea darkens, the setting feels almost supernatural. Dunatar is not merely a castle, it is a symbol of courage carved into the edge of the world. On the shores of the Øresund Strait, where Denmark nearly touches Sweden, stands the imposing Kronborg Castle. Its strategic position allowed it to control one of Europe's most important maritime routes, collecting tolls from ships that pass through those waters. Built in the 16th century by King Frederick II, Kronborg became a symbol of Danish power in the Baltic Sea. Its robust walls and angular bastions reveal a military design intended to withstand naval attacks. But there is another reason this castle became world famous. It was here that William Shakespeare set the tragedy of Hamlet, calling it Elsinore. This literary connection adds an almost mythical layer to the site. Inside, vast halls, such as the majestic ballroom, impress with their scale and elegance. In the underground casements, dark tunnels shelter statues and ancient legends. At sunset, with the sea reflecting golden hues and the towers casting long shadows, Kronborg seems suspended between history and literature, a castle where reality and fiction meet. Dramatically perched on a cliff in the Swabian Alps, Liechtenstein Castle appears to defy gravity. Unlike many authentic medieval fortresses, it was rebuilt in the 19th century with a special purpose: to turn romanticism into stone. Inspired by a German historical novel, the castle was envisioned by Count Wilhelm of Württemberg, who set out to create a neo-Gothic fortress evoking the spirit of the Middle Ages. The result is a slender structure with pointed towers and a narrow bridge connecting the cliff to the main entrance. Crossing that bridge is a unique experience. Below, the valley stretches into vertiginous depths. Above, the towers seem to touch the sky. Around it, dense forests change color with the seasons, making the setting even more cinematic. Inside, rooms decorated with armor, stained glass, and historical details reinforce the idealized medieval atmosphere. Liechtenstein was not built for grand wars, but to celebrate a romantic dream.
At the summit of Mount Titano, wrapped in walls that seem to rise from the living rock itself, Guaita is the oldest and most iconic of San Marino's three towers. Suspended above vertiginous cliffs, it offers one of the most breathtaking views in Italy and in the tiny republic it protects. Built in the 11th century, Guaita served as both fortress and prison over the centuries. Its strategic position allowed it to monitor the surrounding territory and safeguard the independence of the Republic of San Marino, one of the oldest in the world. Walking along its narrow ramparts, strong winds sweep across as the landscape opens in every direction. Rolling hills stretch to the horizon, creating a sense of freedom and altitude that is difficult to describe. The ancient stones, worn by time, tell stories of resistance and autonomy. Unlike luxurious palaces, here the emphasis lies in the raw strength of the structure and its seamless integration with the mountain. Guaita is not merely a castle, it is a symbol of sovereignty carved into the heights.
Hidden among the Carpathian Mountains in the town of Sinai, Pelias Castle appears to have been designed with almost excessive detail, yet every element is real. Built in the late 19th century for King Carol I of Romania, Pelias was one of the most modern castles of its time, becoming one of the first in Europe to have electricity and central heating. Its German neo-Renaissance architecture captivates with ornate towers, carved balconies, and steep roofs standing out against the surrounding forest. The interior is even more astonishing. Halls lined with intricately carved wood, stained glass windows, monumental staircases, and an impressive collection of weapons and armor transform each room into a work of art. Outside, the scenery changes with the seasons. In summer, vibrant green dominates. In autumn, golden hues envelop the castle. In winter, snow creates an almost magical atmosphere. Pelias was not built for war, but to represent elegance, innovation, and national identity.
On the shores of the Baltic Sea in southern Sweden, Kalmar Castle rises like a historic sentinel over the cold northern waters. Surrounded by a wide moat and connected by stone bridges, it blends military strength with Renaissance elegance. Its origins date back to the 12th century, but it was in the 16th century that it acquired its current appearance, with rounded towers and architectural details reflecting the transition from the Middle Ages to the Scandinavian Renaissance. Kalmar played a crucial role in regional history. It was here in 1397 that the Kalmar Union was formed, uniting Denmark, Norway, and Sweden under a single crown, a decisive moment for Northern Europe. Today, walking through its restored halls and preserved ramparts, one can sense the weight of that political and military past. From the top of its towers, the view reveals the sea meeting the horizon, creating an atmosphere that is both tranquil and powerful. Kalmar is not merely a beautiful castle, it is a landmark of Scandinavian history.
Rising atop a strategic volcanic hill in the heart of Scotland, Stirling Castle was the stage for some of the most decisive moments in Scottish history. From its ramparts, miles of landscape stretch into the distance, a perfect position to control routes and anticipate invasions. For centuries, Stirling served as a royal residence and the backdrop to legendary battles. Nearby, pivotal clashes of the Wars of Scottish Independence took place, involving figures such as William Wallace and Robert the Bruce. Its architecture blends robust defensive elements with surprisingly ornate Renaissance palaces. The Great Hall impresses with its scale and its historically reconstructed wooden ceiling. Meanwhile, the royal apartments reveal vibrant colors and intricate details that recreate the splendor of the Scottish court. At sunset, when the sun bathes the surrounding fields in golden light and the sky turns dramatic shades, Stirling seems to echo with the clash of swords, coronations, and decisions that shaped the fate of a nation. Stirling is not merely a fortress, it is a symbol of Scottish identity.
From mist-covered mountains to islands isolated by the sea, we have journeyed through 35 castles that prove how human imagination can transform stone into legend. Every wall, every tower, and every hall holds stories of power, resilience, art, and dreams. If you share this passion for places that seem impossible, subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the most fascinating landscapes on the planet. And now, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from, and which of these castles impressed you the most? We'll see you on the next journey.